My wife was having an affair. I found out about this through a private investigator I had hired. The detective mentioned that he could look into the guy's identity for an extra fee, but I decided to stop there. That's enough. All that's left is to confront my wife. Sadness, anger, emptiness. A whole mess of emotions all mixed together like clay. My name is Michael. I met my wife, Lucy, on a matchmaking website. She had this classy vibe, and when she smiled and showed her dimples, I was instantly smitten. After a year of dating, we get married. Our wedding was a happy occasion, blessed by everyone. Lucy looked gorgeous in her pure white wedding gown, and I swore to myself that I'd protect this bride for the rest of my life. However, a year into our marriage, I noticed something was off with Lucy. Lately, she'd been putting on more makeup and smelling like perfume. I'm glad she wants to stay beautiful, but the sudden glam up was conspicuous. And she stopped using her cell phone in front of me. It was as if she was secretly communicating with someone. Seeing her like that made me think the unthinkable. I didn't want to imagine it, but I asked a detective to check if my wife was cheating. Weeks later, the detective hit me with evidence photos of Lucy arm in arm with some guy in neon-lit streets. Ironically, when I got the report from the detective, Lucy was supposedly on trip with friends. Of course, that was a lie. The trip was actually with her lover, a tidbit the detective shared as a freebie. I went home to find myself sitting alone on a chair in an empty living room, crying quietly. Tears dropped onto the white table. This table was a memento from before Lucy and I got married. I want to prepare delicious meals every day and set them on this table. I was thrilled to hear those words from Lucy, smiling at me with her cute dimples. It's exactly why I couldn't stop the tears. I was up all night waiting for my wife, who would return tomorrow. The next day, I heard the door open. Lucy entered the house and jumped a bit when she saw me in the living room. "Wow, you were here, weren't you at work? I took a day off today." Lucy said, "Oh, I see," and tried to go put away her things, but I stopped her. "I'm sorry, I'm just really tired from the trip," she said, trying to continue on her way, but when I scattered the affair photos on the white table, her face went pale. "Hey, who is this guy? Why would you do this?" Anger and sadness made my voice shake. Lucy initially turned pale, but gradually her expression became emotionless. The white table we bought together, filled with love and promises of daily delicious meals. Now, it was lined with evidence of her infidelity, something so far from love. She just stared at it. "Say something. I know you went on that trip with him." Then, Lucy showed her teeth in a smile. The moment that adorable dimple twisted, I felt a chill. "Oh well, cat's out of the bag. I thought I could get away with it because you're so clueless." Lucy's cold, unfamiliar tone left me speechless. She dropped her travel bag carelessly on the floor and pulled out her cell phone. "If you're so eager to know, should I introduce you?" Suddenly, she started making a call. "Hey, sorry. Yeah, looks like he found out. Can you come over to my place?" She was calling her lover. And within minutes, this lover arrived at our house. It seemed he was just returning from dropping Lucy off and had to turn around and come back. This man entered our home as if he owned the place, without a greeting, and laughed, saying, "Whoa, what a cramped place." "Hey Lucy, so you got busted, huh?" "Looks like it. Apparently, he hired a detective or something." "Wow, seriously, that's creepy." They were all over each other in front of me, flaunting their affair. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. "So, Michael, I'm marrying this man. Can we break up?" Lucy said that, and I was like, "What?" completely dumbfounded. Then she criticized me for not having enough money. Simply put, she was leaving me for a wealthy guy who owned his own company. Indeed, her lover had that nouveau riche air about him. He was just the type of man my brand-loving wife would fall for. I thought I should grab him by the collar since he stole my wife, but he had such an intimidating look that my legs just gave out from under me, pathetically. Lucy didn't show a hint of remorse, even when we discussed our future. She was glued to her lover instead. She said she didn't need any share of our assets and wanted a quick divorce. And apparently, she had no intention of paying alimony either. I couldn't find the words to fight back against Lucy and her lover, as they freely spouted nonsense after their infidelity. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Amidst all this, her lover said something outrageous, laughing. "Hey, if you don't mind leftovers, you can have my ex-wife." It took me a moment to understand, but it seemed like he was already married too. So, it was a double affair. Hey, why not? Take his wife. You dumped folks should get along just fine, Lucy added, laughing. Unbelievable. What is wrong with these people? Unable to stand their hurtful words, I told them to just take their stuff and leave, and I stormed out of the house. Their laughter echoed in the living room. I just wanted to run away as far as I could, right then. Damn it, damn it, damn it. That's when I was wiping my eyes, blurred with tears. I couldn't see, and I bumped hard into someone in front of me. I heard a scream. I quickly apologized, realizing it was a woman I had bumped into. To my surprise, she was crying too. A woman, standing in front of my house, weeping. My intuition kicked in. "Excuse me, by any chance, are you the wife of the man who went inside?" I asked. The woman, with a look of shock, wiped her tears with a handkerchief and silently nodded. Afterward, we decided to talk things over and headed to a nearby cafe. The other woman's name turned out to be Susan. When I heard her out, it seems Susan had her suspicions about her husband's infidelity and had been investigating it. And then, she managed to track down the home of the other woman, who is my wife, Lucy. By chance, Susan saw him dropping Lucy off at my place while she was in a cab. Seeing her husband's car suddenly make a U-turn and come back, she figured if he was still not done messing around with his mistress, she might as well confront them, so in a fit of anger, she came right up to my house. But then, hearing the laughter of her husband and Lucy through the window, and her husband's words, "I'm giving you my ex-wife," hit her ears, and a wave of sadness overwhelmed her. She stood frozen, crying right there, and that's when she bumped into me as I rushed out of the house. That's the story I got. I explained my own situation to Susan. How I'd been betrayed by my wife. I'd hired a detective, and that's how I found out about the betrayal. And that my wife had just asked me for a divorce right then and there. Susan just listened quietly to everything I had to say until the end. "Well, we're both going through a tough time, aren't we?" I said tentatively. Susan replied with a self-deprecating laugh. "I did want to believe in my husband, you know. Turns out, it was all for nothing." After that, we both fell into a silent pause. Accepting the reality of being betrayed and abandoned by the partner we loved took time. I'm sure Susan felt the same way. It was just when the waiter set down a refill of the coffee I had ordered. With a bit of difficulty, Susan said to me, "I'm sorry if this is out of line, but would you mind if I stayed at your place for a while?" I stopped stirring the milk into my coffee. She then explained that she married her husband against her parents' wishes and now had no one to turn to. Her friends are few and far away. Her husband controls the money, so she can't use it as she'd like to. Probably by the end of the day, her husband will tell her to leave the house. That's why she is pleading to work as a housekeeper and look for a house and a job at the same time, even if it's just for a little while. I was lost in thought while stirring my coffee, not saying a word. Then, Susan said with a sad smile, "I'm sorry. I've made an unreasonable request. Please forget it. My family warned me so many times not to marry that man. I regret not listening to them now. It was stupid of me to get involved with such a man. Saying that, Susan picked up the receipt and stood up from her seat. After bowing to me, she tried to leave the restaurant. Susan will have to leave the house where her husband lives. And the woman who will replace her is my wife, Lucy. I have a duty to help Susan. As she walked past me, I grabbed her hand. Susan looked at me in surprise. Her hand was freezing cold, and I gripped it even tighter. To be honest, I'm not good with household chores, so I'd appreciate the help, I said with a laugh. When I said that, Susan replied, "Are you sure? It's a live-in position, you know." "Of course, it's fine. Just so happens I have a room free starting today," I told her. I went home, surprised by the drama unfolding on the day I was confronted with divorce. Susan packed her things and came to my house. We were both tired, so we headed straight to bed. I had Susan sleep in Lucy's room. The next morning, when I woke up, the clock read 6 a.m. It was earlier than my usual time. I thought about getting some more sleep, but the good smell lured me to the living room. To my surprise, there was breakfast on the table. "Good morning," said Susan in an apron, standing in front of the stove. "Wait, Susan, did you make all this?" "Yes, I'm not sure if it'll be to your taste, though." After eating, I couldn't help but exclaim, "Delicious." I hate to bring it up again, but my ex-wife, Lucy, used to say she wanted to make me breakfast every day. However, she wasn't a morning person, so I hardly ever got breakfast from her. In hindsight, that should have been a sign of her dishonesty, I thought as I sat in front of Susan's cooking. I'd been settling for convenience store breakfasts, so having a warm meal after so long made me feel really happy. "Also, here's a lunchbox for you." I was surprised that she'd already prepared a lunchbox without me knowing. Later at work, when I opened my lunchbox, the food was beautifully arranged. And there were even veggies, making for a well-balanced meal. Susan's thoughtfulness was evident, and it touched me. My colleagues even complimented me. "Hey, your lunch looks great today. Your wife is amazing." "Huh?" I just smiled wryly and replied, "Right." From then on, having balanced meals every morning and evening, I noticed a positive effect on my work. I started landing new clients one after the other, leading to top sales that month. To be honest, I was surprised at myself. All thanks to Susan. Coming home to a house without a speck of dust, a testament to a perfect housekeeping. And it was Susan's smile, saying "welcome back, was it a long day?" that gave me courage. Gradually, the time I spent talking with Susan at breakfast and dinner became a healing time for my heart, scarred by my ex-wife's betrayal. One day, to express my gratitude, I invited her to dine out, saying, "Why don't we eat out for a change? I'm sorry for presuming to go to such a fancy place when I'm just staying your place," Susan said apologetically, but I shook my head. "On the contrary, I'm sorry I can't do more than this. I'm truly grateful for everything you've done, Susan." When I said that, Susan blushed and I was taken aback. Right when the meal was nearly finished, Susan said, "This may not be the right time to talk about this," and showed me a paper. It was a claim for alimony from her ex-husband. Apparently, she had consulted with a lawyer and started the process of claiming alimony. Her ex had some complaints, but it seemed she was able to receive the payment successfully. Since I was receiving alimony from my ex-wife around the same time, I had anticipated that Susan would get hers too. "I managed to get some money, so now I can afford to rent an apartment," said Susan as she bowed her head to me. "Michael, thank you so much for letting a stranger like me stay in your home." I was silent for a moment, but quickly put on a smile. "I should be the one thanking you, Susan. You've helped me get through all this. Really, thank you." And with that, I bowed my head. When I looked up, Susan was staring at me as if waiting for something. We looked at each other for a while. But then, "Time's up," said a waiter's voice, and our special evening came to an end. Afterward, We went home with few words exchanged. The next day, after thanking me, Susan left the house. Looking at the now spacious house, a sense of emptiness began to settle in my heart. Months later, suddenly, the doorbell rang, and I went to open the front door. Standing there was my ex-wife, Lucy. Long time no see. I furrowed my brow. "What are you doing here?" As I asked in a low voice, Lucy flinched and, for some reason, tears started to stream down her face. "I'm sorry, Michael, I said some terrible things." Lucy kept apologizing to me. And then, to my surprise, she said she wanted to get back together. Lucy rambled on without waiting for my reaction, explaining her situation. Apparently, her lover's business had tanked. Despite having looked down on me, just a few months later, his company went under. Not that I felt any schadenfreude towards her lover, nor did I care. I just found it annoying to have Lucy crying in front of me. "Please, Michael, let's start over." While Lucy pleaded through tears, all I could think about was how to send her away. Then, my cell phone rang. It was Susan. I answered immediately. "Hello," Susan shouted, "help me. Apparently, her ex-husband is out front of the house. And he keeps shouting, 'Please, let's make up.'" I told her, "I'm on my way, just wait for me," and I put on my shoes and opened the door. But Lucy followed me out the door, tugging at my clothes. "Please, wait, don't go, don't abandon me." I glared at Lucy, who was throwing a tantrum like a child. Feeling my anger, she slowly let go of my hand. I locked the front door slowly. There was no way for Lucy to get back in now. "I'm sorry, but I just don't love you anymore. See ya," I spat out before hurrying over to Susan's place. Standing in front of Susan's apartment was her ex-husband, who, to me, was the other man in an affair. When he noticed me, his mouth flapped open and closed, but I just glanced at him and called Susan. "It's me. I've just arrived at your door." Right after that, the door burst open and Susan came flying out and hugged me. I stroked her hair for a bit before suggesting, "How about we go out for a little while?" and took her hand. Then, the other man shouted, "Wait, Susan. It's all my fault. Please forgive me." Susan covered her ears to the pitiful cries of a man who had lost his company and his status. "He's really saying the same stuff as Lucy used to say." With a wry smile, I turned back to the other man. "If you're that lonely, take my ex-wife, Lucy. Do as you please. Misery loves company. Susan and I are getting married. Don't ever show your face to us again." With that, I firmly pulled Susan's hand and left the scene. We sat down on a bench in the nearby park. "This feels like something out of a drama." Susan laughed, and I realized I was still holding her hand. "Sorry," I said, hastily trying to let go, but she gripped my hand tightly. "That thing you said earlier, about wanting to get married, is it true?" I was a bit startled but took her hands in both of mine with resolve. "It's true. I love you." Tears flowed down Susan's cheeks. "I feel the same way." A year later, we were officially married, and now we're living together. Susan is thriving as a super housekeeper. She might be what you call a good luck woman. After our marriage, I got promoted to supervisor and started being called a potential executive. And now there's a baby in Susan's belly. For the new life, I'm looking to the future with even more determination. The scars from the affair have long since vanished for both me and Susan. The dark past doesn't stand a chance against a bright future.